Hi guys, and welcome to the party. Since we're waiting, all our attendees will connect. I would propose to wait a couple of minutes. And while we're waiting, could you please write in our chat where you're from, maybe current location or your native city? That doesn't make any difference. So let me also open my chat. Please do not forget, yeah, I see Bangalore. Great, so Kyiv, Ukraine. Stas, where you currently are?
London, very much.
London, Great Britain. Okay, great. Okay, guys, for who just joined us, we are just waiting a couple of minutes in order to give a chance all attendees to join. Just 1 or 3 minutes. Turkey from Azan Kolachi. Great. Param from HID. I'm sorry in advance if I will pronounce the name.
Hyderabad.
Yeah, think deep. I'm sorry in advance if I will pronounce some
That's fine.
the name of some locations correctly. So yeah, that's my Ukrainian. So
you need, I think, 6 months to 1 year to roam around, complete all the cities and know the names. Yeah. So it's all right expected.
Yeah. So just a couple of minutes.
I also might not know a few of the city names, so that's not a problem.
I definitely need to improve my geographical knowledge. So, and I will do, believe me.
Yeah, sure. We'll get enough chance, I think.
Yeah. Okay, I think we can get started. Guys, we'll be joining a bit later. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first SFCC community webinar in India. First of all, on behalf of our company, I would like to say thank you that you decided to spend next hour with us. We really appreciate that, and we'll do our best in order to make it interesting and helpful for your professional growth. Just a couple of words to provide you with the context. Astound Commerce is a leader in e-commerce development and platinum partner of Salesforce. At the beginning of this year, we established a pretty ambitious goal to build a strong SFC communities in the cities where we have our offices. We have already conducted several webinars in Ukraine, and it's our first SFC community meetup in India. Who we are. First of all, let me introduce our speakers. Principal Solution Architect at the operation company in the United Kingdom, Stanislav Publika. Stas, hi.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, and Senior Solution Architect and also Director of our Indian entity, Vora. Hi, Deep.
Hi.
And a person who will annoy you between speeches, that's me, Mikhail Sobko. I'm an engineering manager of the web development department at the Astound Commerce Company. Just a couple of words about organizational parts. We encourage you to discuss any topics and comment speaker statements in our chat. That will be really great and make our communication more interactive. If you have any questions during the speech, please write them on our Q&A section. And also, as attendees will be able to vote for them, and that will help us choose the most interesting questions to answer. At the end of Q&A session, if you will have just a couple of 3 minutes, you will be able to ask questions verbally. Just feel free to raise your hand and I will add you to a discussion. Yep, so many words have been said from my side. I think that right now we can really start. With a great pleasure, I would like to give a floor to our first speaker. Please welcome Stanislav Publika.
Hey, everyone. All right, shall we get started? Let me just present my screen. All right, hope everyone can see it. So, what are we going to discuss today? One second. Somehow I just lost another screen controls. Okay, here you go. So my name is Stas. Today I'm going to talk to you around the SFCC place in the e-commerce landscape as itself. Let me introduce myself first of all, and you'll understand the motivation for this specific topic. So I became developer at Astound in 2011 and being just the middle developer. And at that point of time, that everything was very uncertain around me. So, for example, like I didn't know what OMS is, what is like PIM, stuff like that. And it was very hard for me as a developer at that point of time to get those details, even though I was always curious around them. Every single time I was Googling something, I was receiving like ridiculous results. At the same point of time, I've got the impression that it was just lack information on the internet. At the moment, it's not that big a deal, and right now the problem is that amount of information around all these areas is so huge, you cannot understand anything just because there's so much information. So after I grew as a developer, I went to lead role right away, and then I went to the technical practice lead in Astound Commerce. And now I'm here, relocated to London in role of the principal solution architect and managing team of the solution architects over here. So I'm very kind of like, I'm a highlight of vertical growth in this company on the career. So most of the times the developer, everyone would be asking me when I'm working with developers on certain questions like, Stas, what's a mess? Stas, why do we need a PIM? What are those abbreviation means effectively? Why order is getting exported, for example, to MS, not to European stuff? And yeah, I'm going to bring you some of those answers today over this discussion and this presentation. And we are going to talk through multiple areas. It will be more or less like generic, but with projection on the SFCC and where SFCC does sit in all this landscape. So we're going to touch base on what is digital transformation. We are going to define with you the role of the system integrators and why they call it called system integrators. And then we are going to discuss the place of the Commerce Cloud in like Salesforce Commerce Cloud in e-commerce, walk you through into how do we design the integration in e-commerce, as well as we will focus more or less on the middleware in this integration landscape. And also we'll try to separate some of the concerns between the architects and developers. All right, first things first. I'm going to illustrate for you on what is the digital transformation of offline commerce business is, and to get more of the understanding how the offline business can be structured itself. Let's review some of the models of the commerce models that are very popular, well, most common over here. So everyone knows what B2C is. Well, that's basically when business is selling to the end customer, so business to customer. That's one of the models which we are all working in it. Then there will be B2B, business to business. So by the way, like on the business to business, please put into the chat if you have ever worked with the B2B products, or have you ever converted Commerce Cloud B2C to B2B storefront. That will be very interesting to hear. Then one of the models is like B2B2C. That's basically when business is selling to the business and then enabling that business to sell to the customer. So basically it's like a marketplace, like Amazon. That would be like B2B2C model mainly. And right now emerging thing called direct to business. That means when the vendor, brand itself, manufacturer, would be selling directly, avoiding all the retailers in the journey. So let's say you need to build site for like one brand, and that brand will be shipping directly to the customer instead of like reselling through some of the retailers. And of course, today we are going to discuss mainly the B2C part. So here we go. Let's take a look how the B2C is structured in the offline, pretty much, on place. So imagine you got the kiosk, you got the store, maybe some small store. Your classic normal user journey in that store, customer is coming, getting to the till, asking for some products. The merchant is going to supply him that products, charge him via cash or by card, and that's it. However, there is still possible to classify those items into more business-related terms. So I'd say no business can run without payment. So like you can accept cash, you can trade off with something that still will be a form of payment, and that's what it is. That's what your store needs to have. You've got the order processing as a thing. Let's say you got the order and you need to offline, and you need to ship it to somewhere, which leads us to other place of the warehouse and logistics. But the order processing will be ensuring that order is registered in some form. Maybe you wrote it on paper and give it to other person to do the rest of the job. So that person will go to the warehouse, pick, pack, and dispatch pretty much stuff, even without any automated system. There will be just like receipt. You need a till, which is represented by the official name of the point of sale, POS. Of course, you need at the end of the month or at the end of the day, you need to reconcile and ensure like your stock is matching with your stock is matching with your financials itself. So that's the core of the business components. At the same time, you've got some of the marketing components, like more like sales components. Someone gotta ensure that the products are placed in a very nice and right order on the shelf. Someone need to take care of the pricing is attractive enough to the user, well, not to the customer who is walking into your store. You got your marketing to ensure that your store is visible to everyone who is passing by. You got some ads placed in some newspapers or on the billboards, whatever. And then if you're more or less a mature business, you also would keep a record on the customers if you want to introduce to them some more loyalty. So you want to introduce the discounts for the customers who is buying the most of you. So that's all of the elements of the B2C offline commerce itself, right? And quite honestly, it's not as much different to what it looks like when it comes to the digital bits. And that's where digital transformation is coming from, is basically stands for converting those processes into more electronic solution to the end business itself. So you've got, and just like walking through really quickly through the same components we have been discussing through before. So payment, like you all probably worked with some payment service providers. Maybe it was WorkPay, maybe it was CyberSource, maybe some other payment service providers. You got the order processing handled by the whole systems called the OMS, order management systems, which would be responsible for ensuring that order has been accepted. Everyone is being notified around that order. The stock is available for that order. And then once order is registered in the OMS system, It's getting transferred to the warehouse and logistics system. That's where you've got your warehouse management and actually transfer management systems in some rare scenarios for more complicated solutions, but that's still a thing. So out of that, you've got also the point of sale as a POS terminal. So instead of just accepting cash or trading some or bartering some of the stuff, you are getting the POS terminal, so you can accept the actual electronic cash and doing as many payment methods as possible. Business process and accounting normally would be handled by the enterprise resource planning systems, as well as by the BI systems, business intelligence systems. That's all on the core elements. On the sales components, just like we've done with the offline part, like it's still getting grown to the merchandising would be handled via product information management systems, unless they're of course like they're directly managed in the Commerce Cloud. But ideally in this like best practice landscape, there should be a system responsible for that and should be separate. Marketing, you've got the content management systems, you've got the ML service providers to trigger the emails, tracking all of the stuff, and ensuring all of that is working perfectly and customer is kept engaged. As well as you getting the customer relationship system, which is CRM. Well, Salesforce is originally been the CRM, so that's why we are well aware of the customer relation management systems themselves. Their role is to keep track of all the customers, segment them by the loyalty groups, or maybe to perform some of the campaigns over them, to make calls to them, to ensure your business is engaging with clients as much as possible. That's their role. Just to summarize entire bit, so digital transformation is like basically going from the ledger, from the paper where you're registering all of the transactions, to some more complicated systems, to some automation of those business processes, to the whole grain integrated landscape of different systems. Like you may used to work with Excel instead of the piece of paper, but that doesn't change the fact that it's not automated. So digital transformation is automation of the business processes. So of course, you ask me like, so where is the e-commerce there? And apparently the e-commerce is coming like in its organic growth. There are still some businesses that would have the e-commerce as the main business model without having like the physical representation of the stores, but it's like rather uncommon, where the natural organic growth would be from the offline business, then digital transformation of this offline business, so they have more systems to handle more stores, more stuff, and they will decide as a business to get one more channel for sales, because you have the, like your point of sale at the till, and technically speaking, e-commerce is just another channel of sales. So it's not different. In fact, just talking about the channel of sales, e-commerce is enabler for more sales channel. You've got your e-commerce website, whatever we are building as a Commerce Cloud storefront based on the site genesis or SFRA. We've got the number of the digital marketplaces and social platforms enabled because we have this e-commerce website already. And just coming to the next topic of today's meetup, we are getting the mobile applications, which can be built natively by just using the APIs of the e-commerce in our case. So it was taking a look at the actual organization units of how the e-commerce business itself would operate. What's like just answering the question, what's required to get to the e-commerce from the business side? And to me, like it's one of the most important things that I have learned over time, because I was always struggling to understand why do you need so many people on the client side to get the one single answer about like, okay, so can I deploy this library? Can I deploy the script? Can I use this API? And then it goes like through the maybe commerce department, then to some order processing unit, and so on. I won't be talking about the departments itself because like business to business, it's structured completely differently. However, I'll be just using the term units because units is something smaller and what we can get better understanding of. And most of the departments themselves would be consist of multiple units. So let's quickly walk through the unit. So if you've got the IT unit, that's basically guys who is looking after all enterprise systems under enterprise systems. And the word that we used like is very common in the architecture, but also it indicates that you have enterprise and you have systems that are integrating together in enterprise, where e-commerce is becoming one of those systems as well. So normally e-commerce will come second. So like IT department would be taking care of that warehouse management system already. There will be already some integration with PSPs because they're using POS terminals offline. There will be a number of other systems they will be maintaining and looking after. Also, you got the security unit, which normally, like in the smaller organization, that can be merged. There can be like one person responsible for the security in IT, and that person will be asking weird questions and ensuring that everyone is logging this password and not using shared accounts. You've got the digital marketing unit, which is responsible for producing marketing campaigns. Most common representation of that as a kind of like separate department, and that's the ones who is effectively creating content slots, the campaigns, the promotions over the website. You've got the customer service unit. That's a very important bit that will introduce the customer engagement. They will be operating mainly with the CRM system and providing support to customers, which is logical. And normally it also will be separated as a separate department. Order processing unit, that's the ones who would be processing the order in the first place. Once order has left the e-commerce website, it goes into the order management system, getting processed all the statuses, all the stuff there, and source it. So like OMS would be responsible for understanding from where do I pick this particular item, because you may have multiple warehouses. And then it will go to the required warehouse, and then it will be picked, packed, and dispatched. Then you've got the content management unit as thing. That's the guys who is basically working with the content assets and content pages, but also they will be working on the enriching product information. Means like at the base, like your product will have probably title, probably description, probably one image. Those guys would be taking care of ensuring that product does have some content around it. Like they will be filling in like very nice description. They may be putting some HTML blocks on the like for the PDP page. And of course, you've got the e-commerce department itself. Like e-commerce department may be represented as the separate department, and that's most common scenario. It just matter of how business has been structured in the first place. They will be operating through the e-commerce channels. They're coordinating all of these teams and using them for the purpose of e-commerce. So like those teams are not only dedicated to the e-commerce, they may be dealing with different stuff. E-commerce unit will ensure they are used in the right fashion, specifically for the e-commerce. So just to summarize, that's the way the e-commerce businesses are structured on the backside. That's something we don't really see, but it's very nice to understand. So you're getting more understanding who is more relevant to you when you're speaking to different folks. So you may ask, like, okay, so like Stas, you've described all of this. So where is the place for developers in that? Which would be very fair question. Technically speaking, the developers, as we all are, we are getting called system integrators. System integrators basically helping businesses into automating one specific element of the of that landscape. Because I mentioned, like, there is tons of different systems that are existing in enterprise. So if we are talking completely e-commerce, like that, we are delivering only e-commerce, and we will be responsible as a system integrator to deliver that specific part and ensure its integration to the relevant systems. So that's where we're going to talk about e-commerce integrations more. So yeah, since we are system integrators, we're supposed to integrate something, and normally there would be something really crazy or something really simple. You may be integrating the, I don't know, this OMS, even not knowing it, just by placing the order XML to the SFTP, and then whatever happens with that XML, you don't care, it will go somewhere. But it's really good to know that, like, there is some system that would be handling all of that. The diagram you currently see is called integration diagram, effectively, and its role to emphasize and show the role of each box in the system to ensure that and find out which integrations between systems are required. Each line in this landscape would be called the interface itself. Well, interface integration, because to integrate those two interfaces, you need to do some either workflow, which would be synchronous integration, or the asynchronous integration that will be just like live call. So this diagram is normally divided like into three logical areas. First one would be the upstream third-party integrations. Means it's some direct integrations from the current system, where the current system is Commerce Cloud. So that's what we're calling upstream third parties. So they're connected only to Commerce Cloud. There are also downstream enterprise integrations. That's OMS, CRM, ML service provider, and so on. That's something that is normally developed customly for every single client, while, for example, upstream third-party systems can be handled as a link cartridges most of the times. As I mentioned already, like there is some common integration scenarios I'd like to share just to separate out some of the types of integrations that we are normally performing. So we're getting the classification of the integration scenarios by the processing schedule. Most of the times it will be synchronous and asynchronous. Synchronous, that will be simply live calls. It can be REST API, it can be called to GraphQL, it can be SOAP call, whatever it is. It's done in real time. However, like even with those real-time connections, it's simple. It's quite easy to confuse things, because sometimes you may also do this synchronous integration in a synchronous way. Let's say you have the requirement for implementing the order export by performing the live call to the OMS system, right? So technically, you're doing live call, and you're thinking it's synchronous. But then, in fact, you're doing that live call with help of the job. And in that case, it's not considered synchronous anymore. It's considered asynchronous pretty much. And as asynchronous, that's very, the most common scenario in the Commerce Cloud, that would be the batch feed, where you're effectively importing inventory, exporting customers, exporting orders, and so on. You got the message queue as a pattern. That's more architectural part for ensuring that the messages are processed in the asynchronous fashion. So that's basically making sure that everything you're doing even in synchronous manner will be done asynchronous the other way around. You're also getting the webhooks, and to be honest, there is tons more of the approaches how you can make things asynchronous. As well as you are getting the integrations by the basically interface language itself. So of course, we are all not strangers to the XMLs, to the JSONs. GraphQL probably is more rare at the moment, but it's coming to be a bigger thing. So I'd like to emphasize, and if you'd like to research, that's probably a good item for you to look into. SOAP, RPC, and tons of others. But of course, like most of the times, we will be working with the XML, JSON, and probably SOAP. So in this world, it's quite hard to understand at which stage we are integrating something to what, and sometimes in very enterprise businesses, we having use of the middleware. Middleware is something that would stay in between of the two systems to handle the integrations between them. Let's say Commerce Cloud would be doing the order export in asynchronous fashion, so placing the order into SFTP, but your OMS system does accept only live calls. So you've got a choice to integrate it through the direct integration by making that live call directly from the Commerce Cloud to OMS, or to ensure there is a system in place which would be dealing with that integration, which would translate, let's say, we have XML interface in the order export, and you've got the JSON interface or GraphQL interface on your OMS, which is quite hard to mix and match. And that's where the help of the middleware systems, you can hear the alternative names, or basically like the more of the subcomponents of the middleware, like the ESB, like message queue, that also can be play the role of this middleware who will translate it. So basically, it just translates one language to another, just like Google Translate effectively, but in more IT fashion itself. Please leave some notes in the chat with which middlewares you already worked. You're probably aware of, as a Salesforce product, you are aware of the MuleSoft, maybe you work with the Delbumi, maybe some others. I'm very interested to know it, so if you don't mind, please put it in. All right. Let's discuss a few bits and trying to understand in all of this model where you have the SFCC on one hand, you have the business on other hand, you have SI on third hand. Even though you don't have in reality three hands, that's probably what you're going to get when you are SI. Because in a SI situation, we need to understand how do we deliver stuff. And that's where the definition of the developer and architect is coming into picture. And just to clear some concerns between those two roles, one of the good practices is just to getting more understanding and resolve this conflict of interests between the developers and architects, and why they are different and what they're doing, who is doing what, pretty much. I'm not going into like very deep details on the like RICE metrics and stuff like that, but at least on high level, I will try to explain it. So who is solution architect is? Like solution architects mainly responsible for consultancy to the business and consultancy to the developer. In terms of consultancy to the business, SA would be understanding the business value of the change that business is requesting and suggesting the solution which would fit into that business value. So in this integration landscape, he will be suggesting the best way to integrate this Commerce Cloud. To developers, of course, it's more of the kind of the technical architecture design. understanding all the requirements, helping developers getting to the topic, and also translate that business value from the business language to more technical language. Also, one of the key tasks, which is like very hardly visible to developers, is the non-functional, working with non-functional requirements. Of course, probably one visible thing is that SAs does take care about the performance itself, but it's not only thing. There is like much wider list of the non-functional requirements that they're taking care of, like supportability, maintainability, well, probably not accessibility, usability, that's probably for other department, but still he would be ensuring and communicating that it needs to be accessible, it needs to be usable. As well, well, basically he's defining the service level objective as well. He is one of the main business, well, non-functional requirements is the scalability. So sometimes SA may be asking developer for, why don't you introduce this config? And developer would answer, well, but who is going to configure it? And then SA will say, just do it. And then like there is like big conflict and misunderstanding between them, but at the same time, SA just have different perspective. He feels like businesses needs to configure it. So like those kind of conflicts needs to be avoided. And he's ensuring by doing that his business value. Where the developer role is, of course, basically working with the solution architects and build solution based on the technical design that has been created by that architect and integration design. Developers are probably the main sources for delivering that business value I was talking about previously, to ensure those guys are happy, and they are also consulting solution architects and business on some of the best practices in the technical execution of those business values. Because not necessarily solution architect will be a very low level subject matter expert on the Commerce Cloud bits, but at the same time, for SA, it's hard sometimes to understand why do you need to write it down in like that specific fashion. And he may not catch some of the dump things during the code review, but it is fine. That's expected. My opinion is developers are future architects, most of them. To be honest, like most of the developers already like felt themselves architects when they're designing it without any help, right? When they're designing the solution for that, so they're feeling it, they can classify it and organize it. And that's absolutely the right feeling to have. And that's, I think, the growth motivation for you guys. If you're still developer, then maybe in like few years, you may become that architect, and I will even welcome you in my team is something, but that's not the point. There is 3 types of the architects, depends on division. Like one is like the technical architects who is ensuring low-level technical design itself. So those kind of architects, they are very into the Commerce Cloud platform. They know what they're doing. Then technical architect can change his focus just from being the subject matter expert in this platform and become a bit more wider solution architect, still with focus on the Commerce Cloud, but then with more visibility into all of the technical components of that system and trying to actually work with that business value. And then the last stage is where a solution architect can become enterprise architect, and that enterprise architect, he will be responsible for overseeing the business, but he will be least technical from these 3, just because of he needs to have wider look at what's going on. So that's we are coming to the end of my presentation, and I'd like to summarize what we have discussed. So e-commerce, in short, e-commerce is just another channel of sales. System integrators are making e-commerce and merchant enterprise systems work together. So they're basically integrating those systems. That's why they're called system integrators. Middleware is here to make our lives easier instead of like doing the direct calls to particular systems. Middleware will help us and leave our format, our order XML format in the way it's built initially, so that will be proprietary format itself. Developers can become architect sooner or later, that's for sure. And please, please, please stay curious about your surroundings. Ask the questions, why, what that system is. That will help you become the main, very, very talented and very knowledgeable people in this uncertain e-commerce world. And thank you very much. And let's go into the questions.
Great. Stas, thank you very much for the great speech. It was really interesting and fascinating. Guys, it seems we do not have any questions in our Q&A chat, but maybe someone would like to ask question verbally. So if you would like, feel free to raise a hand and I will add you to the discussion and you will be able to ask your question. Does anyone have any questions? Guys, don't be shy. We always encourage any communication. Yep. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Parameshwara. Just let me add it to the chat. Yep, you're here. Hey.
Hi all, Param this side.
Hello.
Actually, yeah. My doubt here is we do also have community cloud in Salesforce. You know, Salesforce Community Cloud also there as a platform, as a service. So how can we differentiate between SFCC and SFSC Community Cloud?
By role, effectively. So when Commerce Cloud would be the platform for basically taking the order and for charge, it doesn't mean that some other platforms cannot do the same. Is that Commerce Cloud would be doing it in central place. Then Community Cloud would be more of the covering the social aspect, and then Community Cloud will integrate into Sales Cloud, and then Sales Cloud into Commerce Cloud still to handle those transition and centralize all the things. It's just a matter of the functionality that is covered between those systems to ensure that they are playing their own role in this e-commerce and like not only e-commerce but enterprise landscape. Depends on which roles the Community Cloud is playing there effectively. Does it answer your question, or it's a bit?
Yeah, a little more explanation. I'm expecting like, see, when Commerce Cloud, I felt like it's in a commerce related and purchasing, sale, orders, everything, right? So when Community Cloud is particularly related to product service, okay. So can I understood like that, or?
So like that's like Commerce Cloud and Community Cloud is two different things. Salesforce is governing like Salesforce does create this ecosystem, what we're calling ecosystem, effectively, and that ecosystem of different products. So Commerce Cloud is separate. Commerce Cloud B2C is separate product from the Salesforce Community Cloud, and separate product from the Service Cloud, and so on. But what Salesforce does, they're trying to bring easy integration between them by just introducing some of the easier connections. But it's not the same. That's effectively not the same. It's just like you need to see that as absolutely separate boxes on that diagram.
Yeah, yep, got it. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for your question, guys. Does anyone have any more questions? Yep, it seems I can see a raised hand. Just 1 second. I will add it to the chat. Could you please, hi, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, like A. Smith?
No, hi, this is Mukesh.
Ah, Mukesh, hi. Happy to see you.
Yeah. So my question is regarding the OCAPI API that we already had. Now Salesforce is introducing the brand new OCAPI API, right? altogether the new one. So
You're probably referring to the headless APIs.
correct. So can you tell me the differences or why the new one? We already had the OCAPI API. Right?
That's a great question. So effectively speaking, OCAPI is still going to be there for a long time. At some point, they may be replaced by the headless APIs. So OCAPI motivation is more around building the native apps and service tools to work with the Commerce Cloud. That's its main goal. Where the headless APIs effectively talking for themselves in different manner, because like there is an entire different world of the headless architecture, where in that you're getting the storefront deployed somewhere else, not like using site Genesis or SFRA. The storefront will be just sitting as some separate custom built application, and that storefront will be using that headless APIs to ensure that they can render that, for example, product details and so on. The main difference is coming from the factor that headless APIs, they effectively using the same mechanics for generating the results. It's built in a bit different fashion and with different purpose. It's built with a purpose of being able to expose separate storefronts. So for example, in OCAPI, you will not find things like, give me the product URL for the PDP page in your storefront that you have deployed based on the Commerce Cloud site Genesis, for example. Where in headless, that will be represented as a slug. So like we can build the URL for that product based on that data. So like it's just like two different concerns. Also, other thing is that OCAPI, for example, shopper APIs, they are stateful because you got the GVT token, you got the session availability there, and so on, which is one architecture pattern. And headless APIs, they are stateless. That means that there will be separate API that will be handling like the session itself, and it will work with different API to retrieve the pricing based on that session. So like there is much more of the live calls that you will have to perform, but at the same time, it gives you greater flexibility on customization of those API. At the moment, Commerce Cloud is trying to introduce some reference application of that as well. Well, they are not doing the reference application. They have done sample up on that. You can also, if you have an access to the Salesforce Commerce Cloud repository on GitHub, there is some samples of usage of that headless APIs, and also some of the documentation is available. Does answer your question? I know. I think that was longer answer than it's supposed to be, but
no, fine. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for your question, Lukash. Guys, I think we have time just for one last question. So if you would like to ask it, feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, we can go to our next speaker. Okay, it seems we don't have more questions. Thus, thank you very much for the great speech, for your answers. It was really a pleasure to hear you. So thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you very much. I still will be here listening to Deep.
Yeah. Guys, now we are moving towards our next speaker. I would like to give a floor to Vora, Senior Solution Architect and Operation Company in United Kingdom. Please welcome.
Hi guys. It's good to see you here. I can see few of the familiar names as well in the participant list. So yeah, thanks for taking the time out and joining this webinar, which is the first ever webinar by Astound Commerce in India. So yeah, happy to be speaking here. So let me just quickly share my screen. Just let me know if you can see my screen. Yep. I assume yes. Okay. So basically, I mean, yeah, Stas has discussed the overall architecture on the e-commerce and where Commerce Cloud can fit in. But yeah, my topic is kind of specific about OCAPI, which how we can use that to build some kind of mobile application. So basically, this is based on my personal experience only, because we have tried and we have created few mobile applications for a brand. So basically, I thought of share the knowledge and the learnings which I got. So a little bit background about myself. So I have total of 12 years of industry experience, out of which 9 years is dedicated to demandware or Salesforce Commerce Cloud now. So it's like more than 60 to 70% of my career I've worked with Salesforce Commerce Cloud. So I also started as a Salesforce Commerce Cloud developer back in 2011. And now I am architect. So yeah, happy with the progress which is made. And before this, I worked for a short time on few domains like finance and geographic information systems, basically. So now, before we start, like what is OCAPI? So I wanted to understand from you guys whether uh, is like whoever has experience or not. So just please put plus in the comment box, in the chat box, if you have worked with Commerce Cloud, OCAPI before or not, and minus if you have not. So I can check that as well, so that I know the audience. Mm, yeah, lots of plus. That's nice. That's good. So I don't think I need to conduct this session. Yeah. Okay, all right. Thanks. Thanks for the responses. So yeah, it looks like most of you are familiar, but still, I've kept this session very high level and I have not used any complex terminology or anything complex, because there might be someone who has not worked with OCAPI yet. So yeah, it will be a very high level session. So basically we'll just cover what is OCAPI, then what all HTTP methods are available, and how and what is overriding of the HTTP methods example, then basically how we can extend the OCAPI endpoint. Then I will give some tips and will mention some limitations about OCAPI, and then obviously it will be the question and answer session. So yeah, first of all, what is OCAPI? So as I have seen, almost all of you have worked with OCAPI. So the full form is obviously Open Commerce API. So this is developed by Commerce Cloud to kind of cater uh, to the apps like mobile apps or some other services where it's like you just need to call a RESTful API and then you get the result from Commerce Cloud. So basically it has three different components of APIs. First is Shop API, second is Data API, and third is Meta API. Meta API, as you can see, is mostly used for the information about the OCAPI or OCAPI resources. So if I just want to know whether what all request parameter this particular resource have, what all response parameter it has, I can use the Meta API. Then second is Data API. So Data API is usually used for server-to-server integrations, or for example, updating the order from the OMS into the business manager. So Data API typically needs business manager user access. So that's mainly used for updating business manager. Then the first one is Shop API. So this API is something which is typically used for the mobile application and all. It's used for all the storefront like interactions. So this is the main API which should be used if you are planning to make a mobile app which integrates to Salesforce Commerce Cloud. So let's see more about it. So basically, there are 7 different HTTP methods which are available. So first one is get, is just, it's a simple get, like you can retrieve the resource data using the get method. Then head, so this method returns the headers only basically. It's kind of similar as get, but it does not respond with any resource data. Third one is delete. So if you want to remove anything, we can use delete. And fourth one is put. So put is typically it can create, update, or replace a complete resource. So, and a thing to note here is that put is not available on production and staging instances. And that's because it typically replaces or updates an object completely. I mean, and that is the reason it's restricted on production and staging. So you should not use put method on your implementations. Now fifth one is patch. So patch is the method for partial resource update. So as I said, I mean put method is updating everything. So put is something which completely changes the object, where patch is something where you can provide what basically you want to update, and it will update just that particular thing. So patch is safer method, and that's why I mean that should be used for any update. Then post. So post is obviously to create a new resource, and it's used for the override as well. So with post, we can override any method. So that will come to on the next slide. Then options. So options is typically returns the list of available operation for the resource in the header, basically what is allowed, what is not allowed. So override HTTP method. So I mean, what is override HTTP methods and why we need it? So basically it is possible that in some cases, the application might not support anything other than get and post. So for example, Ajax might not support anything apart from get and post. So I cannot use delete method, for example. So I cannot directly use delete as the method to do some operation with Ajax, for example. So what to do in this case? So to overcome this case, Commerce Cloud has developed the override HTTP method. So this works with post. So there are 2 ways basically by which you can do an HTTP method override. So first option is to use the URL parameter. So you can just have a post method like I've given in the example here. You can have a post method with the parameter of the overridden method. So if I want to override delete method, then I will write post and then the actual resource and then method equals to delete. So basically this will execute the delete method on the resource. Second way is to use the HTTP header. So basically we can pass an HTTP header attribute called x-dw-http-method override and then delete. So this way also it can be overridden. So, and if we provide both of the options, so if we provide the URL parameter and the HTTP header, then the URL parameter will take precedence. So if I have provided method equals to delete, and if I have provided the header attribute as patch, for example, then delete will be executed and not patch. So this is also something which you can keep in mind. And this is one simple example of how typically an OCAPI URL is generated. So I've just given one example of product_search resource. So this is a get request which is happening on product search resource with a keyword Q. So this is the sample request where we are trying to find the result with the keyword shoes, and the response is basically the response will be like this. So it's like you can get the version of the OCAPI which you have configured. Then the count, so how many result we have. So we have 2 results here in the example. Then inside the hits, you get the product URL, the product ID, the product name, and the type, whether it's master product or not. And then whatever was our query, our keyword. So that's typically like this. So the OCAPI response will be in JSON, which will be similar to this. So the mobile applications can just parse this JSON and then can use the required details. So if the mobile application wants to just display the product name, then by this response, it can read the product name and then just display it on their app. So that's basically, it works like that. So now there might be a possibility where whatever response we are getting in OCAPI is not enough for our implementation. So for example, if in my product details page, I have a custom attribute. For example, I can say country of origin, which is a very hot topic recently in Indian e-commerce industry because of the India-China situation. So yeah, let's take an example. If we have to show country of origin in the product details page. So basically, in that case, if I try and get the data of product from OCAPI, I might not get this particular attribute. So what we can do is there are certain ways. So there are some hooks which are available in OCAPI by which you can use the hook and you can update or modify the response. So that is basically called the extending of the response basically. So now how we can extend the response? So server-side script functions is typically called before and after the HTTP method execution. So typically all the method calls have functions like before and after. So some of them are used only to modify the response from the method execution. So basically, if we go to the documentation site and if we find one of the resource, we'll be able to see what all hooks are supported. Sorry, we will be able to see what all hooks are supported for that particular resource by checking into the customization section. So if you see in the customization section, you will get something like before get, after get, for example. So these will be the hooks which will be supported. So you can define such methods or such hooks in hooks.json, which is referenced in the packet.json of the cartridge. So that way the system will know that there will be an override of this particular hook. So it will be finding that function whenever the method is getting called. So now there are some tips. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys have already worked on creating the mobile application using OCAPI, but please, I mean, put your comments on the comment box if you have done it. You can do it via plus or minus if you have already developed an app using OCAPI. But I mean, these are some tips which I wanted to give for anybody who has not yet done it and who might be looking to be doing it in the near future. So basically, I mean, we just need to choose carefully whether when we will need a web view and when the native experience will be used. So it's possible that the website, the Commerce Cloud website has a very customized basket page, cart page, whatever we can call. So it's kind of not possible at all to regenerate the cart page in the mobile app's native experience. So in that case, the developers might decide that they just want to use the web view. So web view is nothing but the frame from the website itself, which is shown on the application. So everything happens from the website's functions, but the view will be mobile phone. So you just need to choose carefully whether when it's easier to use the web view rather than customizing everything based on the native experience. Then it is basically preferred that the mobile team integrates with the SDKs directly whenever it's possible for a third party. So for example, Apple Pay. So it's better to directly integrate with Apple Pay's SDK and then provide the relevant information back to Commerce Cloud so that the Commerce Cloud order also holds the required information. But sometimes it's possible that the direct SDK integration is more beneficial rather than going into the Commerce Cloud integrations, which is already done on the website, and then call multiple hooks and all. And we need to make sure that we are implementing the hooks only when it is needed, and we are processing only the required data. So for example, if I just want one custom attribute in the response to be added, then I should not have the hook implementation, which is kind of processing 5 to 6 different attributes and then outputting it. So it's always better to just read that particular attribute and output it. So that way, I mean, it might be performance efficient, because if we are trying to get some data which is not relevant for what we want, then it's possible that it takes more time and the app also might be slow in response. So that is one more advice. Then it's always advisable to create different client ID for the app and provide the required permissions in the business manager. So we know that this is the roles which are given to the app, and we can anytime revoke the access if needed. So sometimes I have seen that we have only one client ID which is used on the build, on the Jenkins, even on the mobile application. If we have 4 to 5 mobile applications, all the applications are using the same client ID. So avoid doing that. I mean, we can create multiple client IDs in account manager. So it's better to utilize that. And you guys might be knowing from where to configure the OCAPI permissions in business manager. So you can comment that as well in the comment box if you know. But otherwise, basically there is a section in business manager under administration where you can add the client ID and the required scope for the client ID in the to be used in the OCAPI. Anyway, I mean, you can kind of, if you don't know, then you can just go on business manager and try and find it, and then you will be able to see it. Then the last one is mostly to avoid using the data API or any grant which requires the business manager credentials. So as I said, I mean, we have shop API, data API. So data API typically deals with the business manager related functions and the server to server functions. But in shop API also, there are a few items like, for example, order search, where we might need the JWT, which is a token, I mean, JSON web token, which we need to generate using the username and password. So in that method, sometimes we might need to enter the business manager username and password. So that's not advisable, because I mean, username and password for business manager, if some hacker is able to get the username and password for business manager, then it's not good in terms of security. So avoid using such API or any access which involves the business manager user credentials, because we have seen few instances where some hacker has got into the business manager and done some not required things, because production business manager is pretty sensitive in terms of the customer data, PII information. So if somebody knows the password, then obviously, I mean, it's not a good thing. So, I mean, OCAPI or OCAPI is not a complete replacement for all the script API methods which we have. So, I mean, it has some limitations as well. So, I mean, as I said, I mean, it does not have all script API methods which are available for storefront development. So you cannot just map one method to one method. So if, for example, we have inventory.set allocation, just an example in the script API, then it's quite possible that you don't have the exact resource in the OCAPI to do the same thing. So it's still going on. I mean, does not have all the script API methods. And for example, I mean, social registration or login is not supported basically. So you have some OAuth related methods in script API, but in OCAPI, I mean, the customer auth is usually from the username password only, and you cannot do it directly for Facebook or Google. You need to do some workarounds. It's possible, but I mean, we cannot say that it is supported out of the box by the OCAPI. And then, I mean, when we were developing the mobile application for a brand, then we have come across few of the issues. I mean, we thought that better to check with the Commerce Cloud support. So we did check it, and then we came to know that okay, it turned out to be a bug in OCAPI. So either so Commerce Cloud asked us to either subscribe to a known issue if the issue is already raised, or raise the issue as a bug if it is not raised. So basically there is a link, as you can see here, trailblazer.salesforce.com/issues index. So here, if you filter by OCAPI, then you will be able to see what all open known issues are there and what is their status. So for example, we got one of the issue where if my email address deep@deep.com, for example, that is the email address I have used for creating an account. And if I try and log in by capitalizing D, so uppercase D and then deep@deep.com, then if I try logging in via OCAPI using that email address, then I was not able to log in because OCAPI is treating the login as case sensitive login. So if you have used lowercase d, then you have to use the lowercase d only. So then when we raised it, I mean, yeah, we found out that there is a known issue which is already being worked upon. So similarly, I mean, you also might have encountered few of such issues during your implementation. So yeah, please feel free to share it. But yes, you can see what are all the known issues which are already present. So if a particular function is not working in your code, then you can figure out whether it's because of bug or your code has any issue. So basically that's it. So now I think we'll open up for questions, and yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Deep. Thank you for the great speech, guys. Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to raise your hands, and I will add you to the chat in order to be able. Yep, I see one hand. Just 1 second, please. No. Yep. Okay, it seems you have another question. Am I right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Hey, hi,
feel
Deep.
free.
Yeah, hi Mukesh.
Yeah, so as we discussed around the app development, right? So let's suppose you have developed the .com site for any brand, right? Now the same company wants the mobile app, right? So there is a two way to do it. So one is you can use the out of the box OCAPI API to build, let's suppose the home page only, right? So the home page consists of the header, footer, and the slots, right? So do it, you can use the
Sorry,
out of the box.
yeah, I
API.
think your voice is breaking. I'm not sure if I am the only one. Or...
It seems some. Could you please try to ask a question again, because it seems there were some issues on your end with internet connection.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let me
it's
know
better
if
now,
it
yeah.
is fine now.
Better.
Okay. Yeah. So as I told you, let's suppose you have built the .com site for any brand. Now the same brand was looking for the mobile app, right? And that will be the replica of .com site, right? So now, if we consider the home page, so there is a two-way to do it. We can use out-of-the-box API to build the home page, or we can just expose home controller and the function that we are using for the .com site, right? So
Yeah,
if we
web
use correct. So if we go for the out of the box OCAPI API, we'll have to call multiple of API, right?
Yeah.
And if we go with the the code that we have already, the home JS, so there will be some security issue because that is your custom controller you are exposing, right? So can you suggest like which one is the better, and usually what we should go for, or I mean we should use?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yes, we also faced similar issue when we were doing the homepage for our apps. Obviously, we can have around 7 slots on the homepage.
Correct.
So the mobile team had to make 7 OKP calls, and obviously they said that this is not efficient. So
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, what we did, I mean, you can always build custom endpoint. But other thing what you can do, and I think we also did the similar thing, is to call only one OKP, but extend the method and pass all the relevant slot details. So basically we had a site preference. We do have a site preference where we configure the slot IDs. So I think what we do is we call only one. So the app team makes only one request, but in response, we basically append all the slots content. So that is also one of the option where it's kind of secret as well, because it's OKP call only, and we are just extending the method to just pass the response of all other slots basically. So that's also possible, because if you have the slot ID, then you can get the content of the slot. So basically what our thing is doing is it does the calls internally. But from the app team's perspective, it's just one particular call. So that is one way by which you
Okay,
can
so you were saying we can store the slot ID at the site preference level, and while sending them the request to JSON, we can just send the request in the slot ID in that JSON, right?
Yeah, you can update the response with all the slot content. So the API will just request for one in their OKP, but you can extend that OKP to build the response with multiple.
Okay, so what about the footer and header? Because in the footer, generally we will have the content asset, right?
Footer and header is typically built by the mobile app team, so it can be different than the website.
But the data they want, right? In order to build the navigation, they want the catalog, right? In order to build the footer, they want the content asset.
But I think for header and footer, they might be anyway making another call.
Separate call. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add something because there was the right mentioning that like there might be security issue if we exposing the separate endpoint. Correct. In fact, there is no security issue, to be honest. Yeah, just data is presented in different format, but it's like there is no secret data, no personal details have been exposed and so on and so on. So it's all fine. The challenge with all of this custom endpoints is actually session invalidation. So every single time you will be performing the call from mobile app to the your storefront, it will generate new session. And that session invalidation, if it hits too many times, may cause you performance issue more than security issues, to be honest. So that's just something to note, but you are not, technically speaking, disallowed to do that. You still can expose it. It just matter of how you will cook it. Normally, like the best way of exposing it and implementing it on the mobile side is to have server in between. So for example, you've got maybe some caching proxy or something, which will be caching the results and cookies, what's more important, of that call, to retrieve the maybe like content details or in the JSON form for the mobile application, and then cache it on that server, and then supply it in more kind of headless, stateless manner to the end application.
Okay, caching at the mobile, I mean the mobile side, not the SFCC side, right?
Caching into the mobile server. So like there should be just
Correct.
one more server in between. Like that to ensure there is no performance impact on the SFCC side, because you can cache there like using, I don't know, like Nginx fast CGI or Varnish or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, fine. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, Mukesh, thank you very much for your question, guys. Any other questions? Feel free to raise hands. Okay, it seems no question. Deep, thank you very much for the great speech. Guys, if you have learned something new or like statements of our speakers, I would like to encourage you to raise your hands. It will be kind of an applause for our speakers right now. So it's not for question, just please raise your hands if you like our webinar and statements of our speakers. Yay, great.
Oh.
Whoa, yeah. Deep stuff, this applause for you. Thank you very much, guys. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for today. On behalf of organizers, team of organizers, I would like to say thank you all for attendance and for your time. We are going to conduct such webinars on regular basis. So if you would like to help us to improve maybe the format or the topics, feel free to leave some feedback. You will receive feedback forms just after the webinar. Really appreciate your feedback, and that's really important for us. If you are interested in any career opportunities, please also make a note in the feedback form, and our great HR Ronak will contact you shortly and provide you with more details. At this point, I think we can wrap up. It was a pleasure being here today, and I really hope to see you soon in the future. Thank you very much for your attendance, and see you soon. Thank you, guys. See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.